Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're opening a brand new dark dossier to investigate one of the most wildly controversial football matches in recent memory. I'm talking about the 2026 World Cup round of 16 clash between France and Paraguay, played on July 4th. Now, France walked away with a 1-0 victory, but let me tell you, that scoreline, it barely scratches the surface. We're looking at allegations of extreme physical play, a highly debated VAR intervention, and a chaotic aftermath that sent shockwaves across the entire globe.
So it all boils down to this central mystery. Did a broken system literally steal Paraguay's World Cup dream? Our goal right here is to look at the facts completely impartially. We want to figure out whether it was human error, a machine intervention, or just some chaotic mix of the two that ruined the integrity of this game. We're going to dive into the data, the footage, and the first-hand accounts to piece together exactly what went down.
Here is how we'll break down the evidence today. First, the Philadelphia battleground. Second, a physical war unpunished. Third, the VAR turning point. Then, we'll unpack the chaotic aftermath. And finally, we'll weigh the human cost of this historic clash. Part 1. The Philadelphia battleground. Set at Lincoln Financial Field, July 4th, 2026. The setting itself played a massive role in this story. 38 degrees Celsius. That brutal number tells a story of a sweltering heat wave that absolutely blanketed Philadelphia that day. I mean, for an intense World Cup knockout match, 38 degrees pushes athletes to their absolute physical limits. This environment essentially became a pressure cooker, and it's absolutely crucial context for understanding how both teams behaved as the clock kept ticking. Tactically speaking, France held a staggering 80% of the possession, compared to Paraguay's tiny 20%. But despite this absolute statistical dominance, literally holding the ball for almost the entire game, France was repeatedly frustrated. Paraguay played the role of the ultimate disruptors. They sat deep with this incredibly stubborn defense, just absorbing the pressure, and turned the match into a grueling, exhausting test of patience. Which leads us to part 2, a physical war unpunished. Violence ignored in the heat. With the heat soaring, the tactical battle quickly gave way to something much darker. This match was widely described as incredibly ill-tempered and aggressive, just filled with stray elbows and late tackles. But the standout allegation? French defender Jules Koundé was reportedly punched right in the face by Paraguay's Matias Galarza. And the craziest part? This incident was broadcast to the entire world, yet completely ignored by the match officials in the heat of the moment. And the disparity in the officiating that afternoon was just staggering. France ended up collecting 3 yellow cards during the match. Meanwhile, Paraguay, a team that was employing these incredibly aggressive, highly physical tactics to rattle the favorites, finished the game with exactly 0 bookings. Seriously, 0. You have to ask, how does a team involved in a match characterized as a literal physical war escape without a single yellow card? This wild inconsistency really set a dangerous stage. Part 3, the VAR turning point, the 67th minute intervention. So the boiling point finally arrived in the 67th minute. This is the moment the technological system finally steps in. France's Désiré Doué goes down in the penalty box after a heavy challenge from Diego Gomez. Now, initially, referee Ilgiz Tantashev keeps his hands-off approach and just waves play on. But then, the VAR room intervenes. They call the referee over to the monitor. After reviewing the footage, the initial call is flipped and a penalty is awarded to France. Well, the Paraguayan players instantly went into total revolt. I mean, think about it. They had been allowed to play this highly physical game for over an hour, so they were absolutely furious that a VAR intervention was suddenly penalizing them. They were claiming Doué totally dived. In fact, in this desperate act of sabotage, Gustavo Velasquez was caught deliberately scuffing up the penalty spot with his cleats, just trying to ruin the impending shot. Despite all those wild protests and the sabotaged turf, in the 70th minute, Kylian Mbappé steps up and successfully converts the penalty. This gave France the only goal of the match. But, as we know, that 1-0 scoreline is just a number on a board. It doesn't even come close to telling the full story of the boiling tension that was just about to explode on the pitch. That brings us to part 4, the chaotic aftermath. The final whistle brings no peace. Because, let me tell you, when the final whistle blew, it certainly did not bring peace. The second the match ended, Paraguayan players immediately swarmed referee Tantashev. And this wasn't just a brief, polite protest. A genuinely dangerous mass confrontation erupted right there on the pitch.
The tension was running so high that Gustavo Velasquez actually had to be physically restrained by others just to prevent outright violence. The global reaction to this was swift and completely unforgiving. Pundit and former player Joe Hart didn't mince words at all, calling Paraguay's frantic protests and physical antics a disgrace. It's a really strong perspective, but it perfectly reflects how so many people in the footballing world viewed the total breakdown of discipline from the South American side. But wait, the criticism wasn't just directed at the players. An almost unprecedented rating of 1 out of 10 was handed to the referee by the highly respected French newspaper L'Équipe. I mean, a 1 out of 10 is just a shameful rating, and it really underscores what was perceived as a massive, massive failure in match control. Elaborating on that brutal rating, L'Équipe called the referee's performance downright negligent. Across social media, you had fans and former players labeling the officiating as criminally awful. The core critique here was that by letting all that physical violence slide unpunished early on, the officials completely failed to protect the integrity of the game. It's a stark reminder of how early refereeing decisions literally dictate player safety and behavior for the entire rest of the match. Even the victors acknowledged the ugly reality of this clash. Kylian Mbappé, the guy who actually scored the winning goal, candidly admitted it was, in his words, dirty football. When the winning side walks away describing the match that way, yeah, it pretty much confirms that the victory was anything but a clean, tactical triumph. Which leads to our final section, Part 5, the human cost. Who pays the price? Beyond all the stats and the public outrage, who actually pays the price when a match spirals out of control like this? The human cost here reveals a really stark contrast of fates. On one side, you have Paraguay. These were the giant killers who had already knocked out Germany. Now, they're eliminated. They go home feeling the rules simply didn't apply equally to both teams, their whole journey ending on a VAR intervention after an hour of totally hands-off refereeing. On the flip side, France advances to face Morocco, but they do so physically battered, bruised, and carrying the heavy weight of controversy from a match totally defined by its extreme physicality. And that brings us right back to where we started. I want you to consider this final question. Did VAR steal a dream by intervening inconsistently, or did the human system of refereeing simply fail everyone on that pitch from minute 1? It's a fascinating debate that perfectly captures the friction between human judgment and technological precision in modern sports. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Ponder the evidence we've covered today and be sure to return as we open our next dark dossier very soon.